It is a story I have heard time and time again all too often when a new diet starts or a new nutrition protocol gets going in somebody's life. Maybe 30 days strong, but then it starts to fizzle, it starts losing its luster, and then eventually it blows up. They just stop doing it altogether and they don't revisit it. Why is that the case? Why is it that we hear so many more stories about people who have tried and failed diets rather than people who have seen it all the way through? Yeah, it's very difficult, but maybe there's something else to it. Hang tight, guys, because we are going to uncover why your healthy diet sucks. What's up, guys? My name is Kyler. I'm a nutrition coach, and I know I like to spend a lot of my time talking about supplements, but today we're going over nutrition protocols, diets, and why they fail for the most part, and how moving forward you can prevent that from happening. So reason number one why your diet sucks is because more often than not, when you grab a fad diet or you start a new protocol, something that's very popular, you are either putting yourself in too far a caloric deficit or too far a caloric surplus. You're either eating too much or too little. The reason this is the case is because a caloric deficit is the fastest way to lose weight, and a caloric surplus is the fastest way to gain weight, and that's usually the number one metric people use to gauge whether a diet is working or not for them. So a fad diet can be as pretty as you want it, it can be as new as you want it, it can be very trendy, it can be very exciting, and it can be very different, but more often than not, it's just facilitating a major caloric deficit or a major caloric surplus. And yeah, you can make a lot of arguments for the hormonal differences when you do something like ketosis or you do something like intermittent fasting, but if you do the math at the end of the day, you're putting yourself in such a restriction of nutrition and what you can take in. By the end of the day, you're taking in way too few calories, way too few sources of energy. And yeah, you're going to see fast results that way, but hardly ever do people talk about the long-term effects of doing those kinds of things. So your body likes to fight for homeostasis. This is just how we're designed. Our bodies are designed to keep us safe. And a caloric deficit and a caloric surplus are actually putting stress on your body. Whether that's a little deficit or a little surplus, it is a source of stress, and your body is eventually going to fight that to the point of creating cravings to increase calories or creating nausea or bloating to prevent taking in more food. Like, that's just the way our bodies operate. It's a very smart vessel that we live in. But I've worked with a lot of clients who've gotten upset with themselves because they have struggled being in a deficit for a long period of time. It's not normal to be in a deficit for a long period of time. That's why you need periodization and to work with somebody who knows when's a good time to turn around and to increase calories just a little bit. Even though fad diets vary from all different kinds of options, they're usually putting you in a major deficit or major surplus, and that is putting stress on your body. That's why those diets are not long-term solutions. Reason number two that your diet sucks. You're not eating foods that you enjoy. Fad diets are cool, and I will preach at the top of the mountain every single day of my life that fad diets are usually pushed because they look cool, not because they're important or effective for our health. And it puts you in a box. No one thrives being put in a box. And when it puts your nutrition in a box, now you're limited to what foods you can eat. So ketosis, for example, if you're going for keto, you're limited on what carbohydrates you can eat. You open the floor for more fat intake, and you have to regulate protein intake, making sure you can facilitate ketosis over gluconeogenesis, which is when you use protein for fuel. If you've never done ketosis before, you would be shocked by the amount of foods that you cannot consume simply because of the caloric restriction. Or carnivore, where you're sticking to purely meat-based products. 90% of the foods we typically eat go off the shelves. And this ties in with reason number one, is when you restrict your options on food so greatly, unless you have a massive grocery budget, you're going to be putting yourself in a caloric deficit, and you're going to be able to see those fast results, but it's not a long-term sustainable outcome, because now you're denying yourself stuff that you enjoy for things like comfort, or for mental security, or simply to enjoy a meal from time to time. And it's really important to allow leniency and to allow your body and allow your mind to just relax from time to time and enjoy some foods that you wouldn't typically in a diet. That's really important because it sets you up for long-term success and allows you to embrace who you are as a person in this fitness journey, not deny yourself for the sake of eating 1, 2, or 3 different food options. And this is also a massive problem because if you box in your diet to a number of restricted foods, it's preventing you from strategically coming off of that diet effectively. And Fun fact, you're not going to be able to stay on a diet forever. That's not how they're designed. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to start a diet and see that to the end of time. It's not how it's ever worked. It comes in seasons, and that's going to tie in with reason number 3. So we're getting back there. But reason number 2, why your diet sucks, you're too restrictive with the foods that you can eat, and you don't allow yourself to eat the foods you enjoy. This is setting you up for failure in the long term and even the short term. So embrace who you are, understand that those cravings are important, understand that balance is important, and let's learn what that balance is. And reason number 3, why your diet sucks, you're not treating it like a season, and that's all a diet is. There are people who need to go in a caloric deficit. There are people who need to go into a caloric surplus. Like, I'm not going to deny that. There are certain needs that our bodies undergo, and there are certain goals that we have for ourselves personally, and that caloric range is required to hit that goal. However, we're not supposed to stay in that state for the rest of time. I've been in a cutting phase for the past 5 months or so, and I'm nearing a point where I need to either go through a refeed or go through a deload because my body is catching up to the stress of being in a deficit, and I need to slow down just a little bit. Once I taper back, then I can taper back on after I've given myself time to recover. I take it in seasons. I mean, I've lost 26 pounds in this cut. That's a very successful season, especially if I'm not trying to compete or anything, and I can take a little bit of time and then come back to it, right? It's all about balance and taking care of yourself mentally as well as physically. But fad diets, popular diets on the internet, social media, whatever you see that you're like, oh, that looks cool. If they're trying to sell that lifestyle, they usually sell it as a lifestyle. And that's never what it was meant to be. No one's supposed to live in a state of fasting. No one's supposed to live in a state of dieting. And by dieting, I mean like a caloric stress on your body. It's meant to come and go in seasons. However, if you start a diet, usually these diets are structured as lifestyles, so they don't prepare the users to come off of the diet. And that's where the term like crash dieting comes into play, and talking about how it's very common to start multiple diets, have a history of starting multiple diets and crashing off of them. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. These diets aren't designed to taper off. They don't give you any guidance of easing your way off the diet, which is really, really important. If you treat your diet with a little bit more fluidity, it allows you to come off of it for some time and just recover and get back on it. It really is a state of stress, and so you need to handle it as a state of stress. Living in a state of stress is never going to do you any good. So these diets by design are never going to do you any good. So how do you treat your diet with more fluidity? Let's talk about that. My encouragement would be to simply become more aware of your starting place. And that means numbers like your body weight, progress photos, a before photo, understanding your energy burn throughout the day, understand those numbers. And I've included an algorithm to do that on so many occasions. It's called the Harris-Benedict algorithm, and I'll include it in the description of this video. But there are ways that you can analyze where is your starting point? What does your day-to-day life look like? What does your energy output look like? And what do you need calorically to get through the day? That's the first thing that you need to be looking at if you're going to start a diet. That way you know that you're giving your body at least enough energy to get through the day successfully. On top of that, understanding dietary needs. You need your micronutrients, you need your vitamins. Is this diet providing all of those things that's going to allow your body to function normally, as well as micronutrients, macronutrients, carbs, fats, and proteins? Your body requires those things to perform optimally. So it all starts with awareness. What do you need when it comes to your calories, your macros, and your micronutrients? If you don't know what you need there, you have no business starting a diet, because that diet is destined to fail. So first step, click that link below, figure out more about your energy output and your needs for the day. And I have links where you can connect with me: Discord, Instagram, Facebook. Choose whichever works best for you, and let's connect. Let's talk about where you're at and get you started on a plan that's going to work for you. Because truthfully, that is the diet that's going to give you the most success, is one that was designed purely for you, because you're a unique individual. No more putting yourself in a box. Okay? You guys have a wonderful day.